And I woke up and it was like 5 o'clock in the morning and I felt like a failure. Moment one, before my feet hit the ground. And what I realized is that I felt like a failure in my business because I had deferred my power to people I didn't know or see. It was like I say this invisible they, like I'm not doing enough. They're not happy. I'm not working hard enough. I'm not seeing enough clients. I'm not making enough money. Says who? Like says who? This is my business. And so what I really realized is I was feeling very beat up and abused by my business. And so then I had to question myself and say, if I feel this way, how did this happen? And it's my business. No one else is here, so I set it up.
This is Rebel Therapist, a podcast for entrepreneurs who are trained as therapists and who want to level up their businesses, make a bigger impact, feel fulfilled, and be very well paid. I'm your host, Annie Schusler. This week, I'm talking to Nicole Lewis-Keeber, a therapist and coach located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, who helps entrepreneurs create healthier relationships with their businesses. She's an expert on how trauma impacts business and how to heal it. She's also the co-host of the podcast, The Sparkle Hour. Listen as we talk about how and why Nicole created VIP one-on-one services for entrepreneurs, and then how she's getting her work out to more people. Hi, Nicole. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey there. Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to talk to you. I got to talk to you once outside of the podcast and got so excited about what you're doing. So can you just tell us, give us a big picture of the movement that you are leading right now and why it's so important to you?
Yeah, so I'd be happy to. So I would say the big picture movement that I'm involved with right now is talking about how trauma informs small business and entrepreneurship, and why it's important for us to look at that. And that is actually a thing, and defining what trauma means for people who are not necessarily as informed about the definitions and the details of it, but are definitely living with it and perhaps diminishing it and minimizing it, and how all that plays out into having a business that is loving and supportive as opposed to demanding and demeaning. Because I work with a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs. So big picture, it's all about questioning how trauma informs small business and entrepreneurship and why we need to look at it. So it's, yeah, big picture.
I love that. And when I first saw what you were doing, I mean, I think about business all the time. It's kind of like what I think about and what I work on is people's businesses. But when I saw you putting that into words, that we can tend to recreate abusive relationships with our businesses, I had never thought of it that way. And it's just such a great insight.
It's important. You know, one of the things that I saw a lot with the clients I was working with as a mindset coach out in the beginning was that people were trying to help them put business solutions on emotional issues, and that never worked. And it was very frustrating for them. And they got into the cycle of self-blame around systems. And so, yeah, it was interesting to see how that was all happening. But honestly, all of this came to me in my own experience in having a business for the first time, because I was the front runner that I know of creating a relationship with my business that was not helpful. So, yeah.
What kinds of things did you notice were, things that you had recreated in your business?
Yeah, wow. So the very first thing that I created was deferring to an invisible they. So I always tell a story how one morning I woke up, and it was about 2.5 years into my business as a coach. And because, I had worked for other people most of my life, didn't have a ton of experience being a business owner under my belt. And I woke up and it was like 5 o'clock in the morning and I felt like a failure. Moment one, before my feet hit the ground. And I was desperately trying to make myself feel better. And I was reading Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And there's a story in there, which I won't go into. It'd take too long. But the story jogged an understanding in me. It was like that download moment where you say, oh my goodness, this makes so much sense to me. And what I realized is that I felt like a failure in my business because I had deferred my power to people I didn't know or see. It was like I say this invisible they, like I'm not doing enough. They're not happy. I'm not working hard enough. I'm not seeing enough clients. I'm not making enough money. Says who? Like says who? This is my business. And so what I really realized is I was feeling very beat up and abused by my business. And so then I had to question myself and say, if I feel this way, how did this happen? And it's my business. No one else is here. So I set it up to do that. And then it just took me through this long line of self-inquiry of, well, why would I do this? And where have I felt this way before? And, why would I default into this pattern in a new environment, the stressful platform of having a business? And so that is what awoken all of this study and research on how trauma gets recreated in our business, and the relationship with it is a good place to start.
And tell us a little bit about how you do. I think of kind of your core offer in your business as your one-on-one work, this really deep one-on-one work that you do. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Yeah. So when I kind of stepped aside from just doing mindset work with small business owners, because I recognized that the people who were attracted to working with me as a coach around mindset, and particularly around money when I was doing money mindset coaching, were people who had had trauma in their background and that was affecting their money. So they had money trauma. They had difficulty with visibility. And so I began to work with people at a higher level, a very intensive level, to help them unpack how the blocks and blind spots in their business that were connected to childhood adversity or childhood trauma. And it's very specific, for each person. And so as I began to pivot away from doing money mindset, I was working with people who they felt safe for the first time to talk about some of these things. These are people who have are CEOs in their companies. These are people who have businesses and tons of, the employees underneath them who for the very first time had been motivated to look at their patterns of behavior because their business was at stake. And so it was a very different dynamic at that point. And so I really just had to drill down on, my clients are calling me a business therapist for a reason. We don't do therapy, we do coaching, but there's somewhere in the middle. And that there's really richness here that can happen for them. And so I needed to work with them more often and at a higher level. And so I have about 4 private clients, at any time, because we talk every week. Sometimes we talk in between sessions because in real life is where the stuff comes up that you have to shift and use your tools and pivot and see how those triggers that you have impact that conversation that you're about to have with this employee who has triggered you. So that's where the one-on-one work has come from. And I've developed a framework from doing that work at this point. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey in seeing how my therapy background and my coaching training have come together to create this little weird place that's so needed.
It's so needed. And that you needed all of the different experiences and training that you have to be the one to do it.
It did, because what I hear most often is my therapist is great, but they don't understand my business.
Mm-hmm.
Or my business coach is great, but they don't want to talk to me about how I feel about anything, or why the homework they've given me for the 8th time I still haven't done because I feel afraid of it, or I'm in freeze, or they want me to get up and speak on stages, but the thought of being seen feels very unsafe to me. And so to be able to be here for all of that and to hold space for all of that and to be able to show up for whatever comes up outside of whatever framework or training I was taught by one person, I think that's really important. And I'm hearing more and more that that's why they want to work with me, because they feel safe knowing that whatever comes up, we can handle it.
Yeah. They know that you can hold it and that you can walk them through it. And how does that work? So you're working with CEOs sometimes who have a lot of employees. And so it's not just, like you said, it's not therapy. It's including a lot of moving parts. So how does that work in terms of you kind of working with the whole system of their business?
So what we do is we do a little bit of unpacking of patterning, and we do a little bit of exploration in their past, because you do have to look at their past experiences. we do, I call it, looking at your inner kiddos. We start to get to know who their inner kiddos are and how they are operating on their internal board of directors at this moment, because we all have them, and they can work with us or they can work against us. And so we do a lot of unpacking of that. But we start with what's not working for you right now in your business. What pattern are you seeing over and over that's bothering you? Where do you want to go? Are you not making enough money? Or are the relationships problematic? Do you get a new client and immediately hate them? Like, whatever it is for them, we start there, but we start to move back and unpack it. So we're looking at their history. We're looking at how trauma shows up. We're looking at mind-body stuff. We're doing a lot of comprehensive work on how to do that pause before they react to say, is this helpful? What story am I telling myself about this? And that's where a lot of Brene Brown's work kind of comes into what I do too, around shame and vulnerability and how it shows up. So there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot that can go into it because of all the training experience I've had within the coaching world and in the therapeutic world. So it feels very therapeutic, but it's not therapy.
And do the team members know about you? Do you ever meet with people as teams?
Sometimes. I'm hoping that'll change in the future. The smaller the business, the more they know about me. I do have a client who has a very small firm and 3 employees, and one of them happens to be a family member. So every once in a while, they'll laugh and just say, my team will say, have you talked to Nicole this week? So it's really funny. And some of them have brought me in to do a very specific training on maybe mindfulness or how to manage that inner critic that everybody really has. And so every once in a while, they'll bring me in to do a training or maybe to help them have a conversation with an employee. Not as much, but I do think in the future that will change. But I think most of them know about me. Smaller businesses, bigger ones know, but their right-hand person usually knows about me.
Yeah, and I'm sure so much is changing that they know something's going on.
Absolutely. They really do, because they can see the change. They can see the pause. They can see the self-compassion come back. They can see the fact that they honor the relationships and look at the business in a more holistic way than they did before. I always say we don't drop our baggage at the door when we start a business. It comes with us. Our business can become our mean dad, father that we had. We can create our business to be in that relationship with us, to where we create it to not be empowering. And so when you shift that relationship from one that's not supportive to one that feels light and supportive and secure, everything changes. I mean, even the clients notice it.
As much as you're comfortable sharing, how does it work for you financially? Are you on retainer with people, or is it kind of a case-by-case program?
Yeah, so the people I work with at my my VIP level that I talk with pretty much every week, they call me their CEO wing woman. So I'm pretty available and present to them. So it kind of looks like a retainer, but it's one price tag for 6 months, and then we kind of develop what that looks like for them. So they're buying my availability for that 6 months period. And
you're not taking a lot of people, so that means that you're not kind of in an abusive relationship with your business. Right. Because what it does is it allows me to do what I do best. It allows them to have the attention that they need and are paying for. And also it gives me some space to be able to see, where do I want to do this work in my business somewhere else? Where, I'm writing a book on how to love your business, where it gives me space to do something that I think is important. I love working with my clients, don't get me wrong, but I didn't start my business at this age and stage in my life with this big why of, trauma impacts our business. We need to look at this for only 4 people every 6 months to get this, so it gives me some space to look at the book and possibly group programs and being a paid speaker and being on podcasts, because I have a message. I want people to know this, because for me, my bigger why really is that for me to see someone who starts a business, it is a scary thing. And if you are courageous enough to start a business and you have been through some experiences in your life, particularly as women, that's who my rally cry is for mostly,
if you've been through all this stuff, you've dealt with it, maybe you've been to therapy, you've overcome, and you are brave enough to start this business and jump into this world of entrepreneurship, and you've got your strategy down, you know your stuff, you have your skill set, you're amazing at what you do, I will be damned if trauma from your past comes back and sets up shop in your business and that be the thing that shuts you down. I don't want that to happen, because when women have financial freedom, they have power. When they have power, they have a voice. When they have a voice, they can make change. So this is super important to me. It's super important to me.
Yeah, I feel it. And you want to get that out there in a really big way.
Yeah, because you can have a shift in perspective about this without working with me one-on-one, right? You just need to hear the conversation in a certain way, maybe read the book, maybe just pick up one bit of information that gives you some self-compassion about the thing that's not working for you in your business right now and look at it through a different lens.
Yeah. And I want to talk in a minute about how you're kind of all the different ways that you're touching on, that you're taking it bigger. I want to ask you a couple more things about your one-on-one work. Do you meet with people in person or online or both?
If someone is local and wants to meet in person, that is something I would be open to. It doesn't happen very often because most of my clients are not local. So we meet on Zoom, which is like a video conferencing app. We meet via a conference call. Most of them would like to have their sessions recorded, so in some way that we can record them, because the real deep integration comes when they can go back and listen to themselves speak to something. That's when I feel like if you have any spiritual posse in your corner where they can poke you on the shoulder and go, you need to pay attention to what you just said right there. I think there's just a deeper integration of the work when you hear yourself speaking through it. So any way that we can record it, we do that. So it's mostly virtual. Sometimes they come in for a VIP day if they want to, which is always fun.
That's brilliant. Yeah. And I'm imagining we're all busy, but I imagine CEOs are very busy. And so the fact that you're available to, work with them remotely and in different ways makes a lot of sense.
It does. Availability is very important to them, and accessibility in the moment is very important. Now, obviously, we have boundaries around that because I want to love what I do as well. I don't want to set up a precedent where people think I'm just available all the time. I'm not. But it works, and they understand the boundaries and the parameters, and they live within them, they work within them, and they're very grateful to be able to have me in that moment in some way, because they have a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake.
How do your clients find you, your one-on-one clients?
Most of my clients are personal referral because of the deep level of work I do, and it's really difficult to kind of right now put it out there in a very succinct, one little sentence marketing language that makes sense to people. So my clients who've worked with me will then refer me to someone else that they know in their circle. Every once in a while, I'll get a client from me doing a speaking gig or, maybe a podcast interview, but usually they're in a different space and they're in a readiness of hearing and understanding this. So it's usually personal referral. I'd say 99% are all personal referral.
I love hearing that, because I think with the way social media works, that it can give business owners the impression that to be successful and to have an abundance of clients, you've got to be a huge internet personality, because those are the very public lunches going on. But that is such bullshit. Like, there are so many wonderful businesses like yours that people don't necessarily know. They can't see the process of clients finding you because it's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, they have no idea. And, anytime I get really, really stressed out about, I didn't post on Instagram enough, or, I'm not on my Facebook page enough. Like I did a Facebook Live earlier today. It's probably the first one in a month and a half. I always remind myself that's not where my people are necessarily hanging out, or not where they're making decisions about this work from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it seems like you've got a podcast, The Sparkle Hour with your cousin, which is super cool. And, the things that you do on social media and things like this podcast, it seems to me like that's more about you trying to get the word out there to more people, that you just want to help more people than you can, like you said, one-on-one.
Yeah, because this is about an idea. Most people it's never occurred to them to look at the impact of trauma on small business or entrepreneurship. And so if I can just get them to look at that and say, wow, I'm procrastinating and I don't need more time management training. I actually need someone to help me unpack why this scares me or why I'm avoiding this. I think that's important because, again, it gives that level of self-compassion. People can look at it deeper, a little bit of self-inquiry without it, with self-blame. It's like, wow, this is not something I considered before. No wonder I see this pattern, showing up again. So just having the conversation and throwing that out there and saying, hey, you're in a relationship with your business. Did you know that? Do you know how fraught that is for toxic patterns?
Right. Yeah. And that was such a light bulb moment for me of seeing like, I am my boss. So whatever's going on in my business, in some way or another, I am creating it and, or at least letting it happen. So it's, such a great insight.
That's what I say. The absolute most to my clients is remember, this is your business.
Yeah.
You get to set the parameters. You get to have the conversations. You get to change things that aren't working for you. It is yours. You get to do that. It is such a hard concept because we're so used to being in positions of, people pleasing and deferring our power and our wisdom. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, so we're in a business network together. And one thing that I noticed you doing that's so brilliant is you're writing your book. And in order to write your book and to, make it of even more value, you started a group so that you could kind of let that inform the book. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was selfish motivation because writing is my least favorite thing to do. It's not how I express myself the best because I have a learning disability. And so I really battle it. And so while I was sitting there outlining the book and looking at what I wanted to say, after 2 years of wanting to write this book, I realized that I needed some motivation and I needed some personal engagement around it. And so what I did is I asked, there was about 10 people in the group to join me in this group so I could take them through the processes that were in the book I was outlining and that I had been working with people around already, so that I could figure out what I want to say about it. So it would push me into writing up their, assignment before our live class and get the perspective from them of where's their shift, how does it change their life to go from not understanding that they're in a relationship with their business to really seeing it and then defining it. And what it did is it gave me a lot of confidence to say, yes, this is viable. It's not just some silly thing you came up with. But it also gave me more depth. I have stories that they will let me share. I have before and after the process things to draw on now that are just much more meaty and beautiful than what I had before. And so the group went very well. They didn't want it to end, neither did I. So it will probably happen again at some point. But I always think there's a way, and I think this is the beauty of the learning disability I have, is that there's always another way to approach this. And so why not look for the opportunity? And that's what this group was.
And so it was a paid group.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, of course, that makes sense to be paid for your work. And also, I'm wondering, did that mean that you saw people having a higher level of commitment?
Yeah, well, they knew it was a project. And so they knew that why they were there. They knew why I was doing it. So they were committed because of that. I also vetted the people in there. Everyone who wanted to be a part of the group were not invited to the group. They needed to, I wanted a different types of people, different types of businesses, levels of commitment. And so the financial piece of it, I know played into their commitment, also because they knew it was a project that they were a part of. And they all agreed to have, their story in there. They all agreed to be a part of it. They were very excited about it. And I think that level of commitment is what made it easy because actually ended up being an 8-week group because of the holidays. And we met every week and they had homework before every session. And I got a lot of flack from people who said, you shouldn't charge people to do that since they're helping you. And I said, why wouldn't I charge them for that? They're getting some brilliant stuff here. Like, it's amazing. They're going to get a copy of the book whenever it gets written. They get an investment in any future projects I do. Like, this is a partnership here. This is an exchange. Of course, I'm going to charge for this.
It's interesting, Nicole. Like, it makes me think that's sort of a trauma reaction And I hear that kind of stuff too. Like, well, I can't charge for this if I'm really, really enjoying it, or I can't charge for this if it's my passion, or yeah, on the more judgmental side, like of other people charging or what other people are charging. I think it may be kind of a trauma reaction of thinking that our lives are supposed to be full of a lot of suffering. Our businesses are supposed to be full of a lot of suffering. And if it feels good, it shouldn't be.
Well, and also that you can't ask for help and then charge someone for that help too. And that, yes, I was asking for them for help. And that idea can hang out with this other idea of what I have to offer is very valuable. And they're a part of something really unique. And it's worth charging for. So it's like, I need help and you have to pay for it. So for me, that's where true healing happens, when you can hold two ideas at the same time that are very opposing, without being triggered by it or defaulting into some kind of old, mindset stuff. So yeah, it does feel a little bit like a trauma trigger. You have to pick. You have to pick. You can't have both.
Yeah, it's got to be polarized. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's always an exchange. I think what you've done is you've made the exchange more transparent. You were just really honest about it. Someone could be running a group that's going to help them write their book. And I'm not saying this would be wrong, but someone could do that and kind of feel like they have to keep that part private, like that they can't tell people, hey, this is actually going to help me.
Yeah, I really honestly believe that transparency is important, particularly in the work that I do. And I believe that preparing people and giving them all the information that they need is the right thing to do. And so for me, there would have been no other way to do this. It would have felt inauthentic or unethical, because for me, choice and consent is so important in the work I do. And so they're consenting to the entire picture, not just a piece of it that I'm giving them. And so for me, that's important. It's of value. They got their homework a week before. We didn't do any on-site or in the moment training or, processing, because I felt that they needed to have consent, have the knowledge of what we were talking about ahead of time, have processed it themselves, work through that, but they feel comfortable talking about, and that consent piece was very important, so that in the meeting, in our session, our group, they could share as much or as little as they felt comfortable with, and they could even put the parameters around what feedback they wanted, because I can't go out here banging this drum about how trauma impacts small business and I'm going to help you with this and then take away any transparency or consent that you need to participate in safety. And so that's important to me.
Oh, excellent. And so where are you in the book process?
I wish I was further along. I ended up applying and being picked to be in a cohort for Brene Brown's Dare to Lead facilitators. And so I kind of have new work I'm doing around that too. So it's impacting my time. The book's outlined. I have their stories. I have a very clear idea of where I'm going to take people through it. I just need to sit down and start writing out the chapters. I've even outlined the chapters. I just need to write them. Mm-hmm. Even if I just speak them into a mic, I need to get into that place. And I'm trying not to beat myself up for it. I'm someone who my attention can't get too broad, too far out, because then nothing will get done. So I kind of have to just remind myself and be kind and bring it back around and know that it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. This is interesting because it feels like there's some kind of balance there between committing to really doing something that's important to you, but also giving it space, because I'm imagining that doing this work with Brene Brown, that's also going to deepen the book. But it's not like you want to just keep deepening the book forever before you write it, but there's that balance.
Yeah, so I talked with Joelle Hahn, who's in that community that we both belong in, and she's a ghostwriter, editor. Like, she's been in a lot of arenas, and she said, Nicole, this could be several books. So just go for it. And so we're going to start with the Love Your Business piece first, and then the next books will deepen But the first one's going to be self-published. It's me. I don't want to wait 2 years for a publisher to decide, that's ready. I want the information to be out there, even imperfectly, but out there so people can start reacting to it and having the conversation. And that's what's the most important thing.
Yeah. It's like your gift to the world.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be looked at, and so that people can then decide what side of it they want to participate in. If they want to continue to be mindless in their business and recreate patterns, or if they want to take a deeper and harder look at it and say, my business is important to me. I want it to be around for a while, and I want people to actually enjoy working with me, and I actually want to enjoy my business.
Yeah. So, Nicole, if you could time travel to when you started being a business owner, what advice would you give? Maybe one mindset, big picture thing, and one thing that's more tactical that you would tell that younger Nicole?
So I think the mindset piece of it is stop waiting for someone else to discover you. Because early out, I would get really excited when someone would say, "Oh my gosh, I've never thought about that before." And they were a big name or someone, and I was like, "Oh, I'm in the money now. I'm going to be famous." Not that that's what I'm doing this for, because I'm not sure that I have the emotional bandwidth to be a famous person. Makes me want to vomit. But I was, again, then this was before, I realized what I was doing in my business. I was deferring my power, and my mindset at that point was that I was too new and I didn't have enough to offer, and that someone else was going to have to bring me along for the ride, as opposed to creating my own journey, which is what I'm at now. So it was more of a mindset of feeling like I still needed someone to do it for me or open up a way.
Okay. Very cool. That's such a good point.
Yeah. And tactically, have conversations. Don't be afraid to go ahead and start doing the work and having those conversations with people, because any opportunity I've had to speak, be on a podcast, being invited to be a guest teacher in a community, has been because I have reached out and had a virtual coffee with someone, had a conversation, and just asked for that conversation. It's so important. That's what's gotten me opportunities, not being on Facebook or Instagram. It is having these relationships and getting to know other people and how they work. And so that we know how to support one another. So have those conversations, have a virtual coffee, get to know people, build those relationships, because they're so very, very important.
Yeah. And that's how you and I met, was reaching out to each other. Yeah.
Yeah. It's how I met all the people who have been, supporters and mentors in my business and taking it to the next level. It's just having a conversation saying, "Hey, you want to talk?" Sometimes it's a no, but a lot of times it's a yes.
Yeah. And how do you have any kind of ritual or system that helps you keep doing that? Or does it just kind of naturally happen for you?
I think it naturally happens because I'm in some of the communities where people have these long, deep threads of conversation under a question. And for me, that's so difficult for me to do. You will not get the best of me in a thread. You just won't. And so I needed to be heard, and I had something I wanted to say. So I would reach out to people in that thread and say, "I'd really love to talk to you about this, but it would be easier for me, if we jumped on the call or if we did this," because what it was doing was honoring how I operate, but also, that value of getting to know them, because I did have something to say. I did want to say it. And so that was very important.
Oh, I love that idea. And I know it happened naturally for you, but I think for a lot of people listening, that is a great idea to try.
It really is. It doesn't cost you anything. And all it is someone saying, no, you're not selling them anything. You're just saying, "I would love to get to know you and more about your business. And I'd like to tell you about what I do, so that we can, make sure that we are, marketing minions for one another."
Mm-hmm.
But, I just think it's important. And if it's not a natural way for you to reach out, just try it, once or twice. Just start with people you kind of know, like just adjacent to you, and then they're going to introduce you to people that they know that's adjacent to them. And the reach is so far. I mean, I've collaborated with amazing people I never would have met had I not done that.
Excellent. So what is the best place for people to find you, learn more about you, and throw compliments at you?
I love aha moments. I love it when people share an aha moment. So I have a website, which is nicole.lewis-keeber.com. It's not super fussy, but it does have a little bit of information. And there is a business relationship assessment on that website, should you want to figure out what your business relationship is. It's not a sexy name. I'm still, I'm showing my clinician's hat a little bit on this. Or Facebook, Nicole Lewis-Keeber Coaching. And I was writing a lot of articles on Medium. I have yet to write any this year. I need to get on that. But there's a lot of good content and articles about how I see trauma showing up in the practical ways in people's business, like procrastination, time management, those things on Medium. And it's just under my name, Nicole Lewis-Keeber, on the Medium website.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nicole. This has been so rich, and I look forward to continuing the conversation over time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love talking about this.
Thanks for listening. Nicole really opened up an important conversation about how to create a healthy relationship with your business. And speaking of your business, imagine setting up your business in a way that gives you a joyful amount of free time as well as a good income. Creating a profitable and fulfilling business takes planning. You need a clear strategy based on your unique gifts. Welcome to the Superpower Method for Therapists Intensive. This is our flagship program to help you grow or revamp your therapy practice, and we only run it twice a year. This program runs in 3 phases, so I'll tell you about all 3. We start with 3 full days together. It's all online. And I walk you through the Superpower Method steps, and you take action on them in real time. Now, I've turned this process into a 3-day intensive so that you can't procrastinate. You're going to get a lot done and you won't be distracted by your daily life. Then after the intensive is over, we meet for 4 months. You'll have 4 monthly calls with me and 2 bonus calls with our Superpower coaches who are alumni of the program. In those 4 months, you're going to get support and guidance as you implement more of the steps. Then, when those 4 months are over, you become a member of the Superpower alumni community. And that's where you'll get lifetime access to live monthly calls with me and interaction with me and your fellow superheroes. This process of building this kind of business is going to take work. You're going to have homework assignments to complete, and each one of those is going to bring you closer to the private practice you want to create. To learn more about the program, go to rebeltherapist.me. We're accepting applications just through Friday, May 10th, 2019. So as we're releasing this episode, that's only a few days away. All right, I will see you next week. Awesome.